This is it.
This is it.
We finally made it.
That's crazy to me.
What we have been building to for years, what some of you have been with us building for years. We're finally here. It's election week in America. We're recording this obviously before Election Day on Sunday, but if you're listening to this on Wednesday, then
hopefully it ages well.
Election Day is over. Maybe we have results. Maybe we don't. We don't really know yet, but certainly by this point next week, we're going to have a new president-elect.
That's
insane.
Yeah, the results will definitely be in by Sunday. I can't
100%.
see any world where they don't come in by next Sunday, but shit's wicked.
Yeah, there's no way that results take as long as they did in 2020.
Yeah.
I would guess sometime Wednesday or Tuesday, especially if it's a landslide, which Ann Selzer is predicting. We'll get there. We'll get to Ann Selzer in just a minute, though. But, you know, this episode is a sort of retrospective. We're going to be looking back and sort of talking about the broader trends that worry us moving forward. But we'd be remiss if we didn't take this final opportunity. Posthumous. What's the word for like after somebody dies?
I think it's posthumously. I can't say it, but what
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're gonna take this opportunity for listeners of on Wednesday or later to do one last ad series.
Oh, got to. You know, just for good time's sake.
Exactly. There was one ad that's really lit the media on fire this last week of the campaign, and we're not going to play it this time because it's mostly music.
Yeah.
But we can describe it, and I thought it was really funny how people reacted.
It's good.
Yeah.
The reactions make the ad. The ad itself is just like a regular like good ad.
Yeah. So the Kamala Harris campaign released an ad where it's like a husband and a wife going into their polling location, and they're decked out in MAGA gear. And the husband's like, "You're going to make the right decision, right?" And she says, "Yeah." And then they go in, and she secretly votes for Kamala Harris.
Gas.
Because it's a secret ballot, and you know. There's like some implication there that she's like hiding it from her husband. And then they leave and he asks, "Did you make the right choice?" And she says, "Of course." And the point of the ad is like, even if your husband is, or anybody is pressuring you to vote for Trump, you can vote for Harris because it's a secret ballot. Pretty innocent, I would say.
The silent majority, if you will.
Yeah, well, the silent majority, and I feel like a relationship dynamic that's probably pretty common.
You know, liberal women and their conservative boyfriends, yeah.
Especially in like suburban white America, you know what I'm saying? And this, surprisingly to me, lit conservative media on fire. Like people like Jesse Waters were saying that if his wife did that, that would be tantamount to an affair.
Insane.
That is crazy.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like I can't wrap my head around it. Obviously, like it's just controlling. Like I don't, men. You know what I mean? Men. And it kind of like lit a fire under conservatives' asses and stoked the flames of misogyny. Because kind of after that went on, you got just a litany of tweets coming out. Charlie Kirk specifically, we quote tweeted it on Twitter, talking about how I went to the polling place today and 75% of the people there were men. Men are fucking rising again. Let's go, men. Like, brother.
Yeah, men are back on top as if they haven't held all political power for all of history.
As if still they don't hold every ounce of power.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's actually crazy. And yeah, like I said, I feel like it's a relationship dynamic that's probably more prominent than a lot of conservatives think. And just the fact that it struck a chord to me suggests that it is a real dynamic they're terrified about. You know what I mean? Because if it wasn't a real thing, if it's like a thing they were never worried about, then they'd be like, this is just a dumb ad.
Yeah.
But they got so mad that Jesse Waters, again, on national TV was saying it's basically cheating. That's insane. And it's so revealing. But, yeah, that's ad series.
That's ad series. That's the final ad series. There's a little cherry on top of everything. You know, we had some good ads this year.
Oh yeah, Pudding Fingers.
This year, that's exactly. We had Pudding Fingers. That's the cream of the crop right there. Oh my goodness, we had everything else. We've just insane statements. Just wow.
We had Ron DeSantis with the black sun and rad in the background. Yes. That was a banger one. We had all kinds of good ads. Yeah,
that was a banger. Oh my goodness, man! Just what a year for political ads. Of course, I'm not getting the ones that are entertaining on YouTube. Whenever I'm watching, I'm just getting I'm Melissa Slotkin and I hate immigrants, and I'm Mike Rogers and.
I hate them more.
Exactly.
Lock down the southern border. #1 issue for Michiganders.
That's right. What I'm saying? That's right. On the northern border.
Yeah.
People on the northern border hate the southern border. That's a big problem.
Yeah. But that's a year of ad series. That's a cycle of ad series.
It is. And it's been good. It's been glorious.
Maybe in the comments, let us know what your favorite ad was that we covered.
Yeah.
This past since August 2023 when the GOP primaries were happening.
That's gonna have to make the Hit Award show at the end of the year.
100%.
There's gonna have to be a best ad category.
Oh my God, I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. Oh my God, I will vote.
Welcome back to Head in the Office, everybody. This is the final episode we are recording before the 2024 presidential election. And who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, shit feels like hella ominous. Low-key. Low-key anxious.
Yeah, we had one just like injection of hope last night from Selzer,
Yep.
which we'll get to in a little bit. But other than that, scared.
Really scared, actually. And don't really know what to think about anything. Feels degrading, just kind of trying to do analysis.
Yeah, no, it's a rough position to be in, especially as a leftist, especially as a pro-electoralism leftist. It's a really bad time. But before we get into the episode, quick announcement for those of you that are watching, for anybody that's listening, of course, but especially for those watching on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing a piece of our new Hiddo merch.
And it's beautiful.
We're doing
Green like money?
Green like money. We're doing a small little winter drop. We've got a hat that you can buy, and we've got 2 different sweatshirts you can buy. Hiddo International Series. Gage isn't wearing his today. I guess he fucking hates the podcast or something.
I'm saving it to wear on a live stream.
He don't fuck with the podcast or something like that. But Hiddo International, we got a green hoodie and a gray option. We will be posting about this very soon. The post will be out if you're listening on Wednesday. If you're a patron, you found out about it on Friday.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool incentive as well.
And if you're an angel investor, stay tuned because we will have a free item to send to you. And we'll let you know about that very soon.
That's pretty good. Sounds like you're getting great returns on your investments.
So that's headintheoffice.com if you want to support the show and get maybe a Christmas gift for a family member or a friend, or you just want a hoodie for yourself since it's hopefully getting cold, sustainably cold for the rest of the winter season.
We had a brief 70 degrees in late October here in Michigan.
Yeah, that shit pissed me off. I was so mad the other day when it was like 79.
Yeah, that shit was dumb as hell.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Either way, it's going to be getting cold, especially in the great Midwest. So make sure to get yourself a Hiddo hoodie or hat.
And once again, the last episode before and after the election, it's the pre-election, post-election show, if you will. Yeah. And we've been telling you guys all year, like, lock in. But you know who hasn't locked in?
Who?
Our fucking audience.
Oh, that's crazy.
We have no 5-star reviews this week.
None to end the election season?
To end the election, not a single 5-star review. Can you believe that?
Maybe this is a bad omen.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, how do I know that you're going to get out there and vote?
Yeah.
If you can't even get out there and write a review from the comfort of your own home.
We have thousands of you that listen every single week. We just had a TikTok that did like 1 million, by the way. That was crazy.
Insane.
We know there are more of you that can leave 5-star reviews. We've only got like 450 5-star reviews, which is pretty good for a podcast of our size,
Exactly.
I'll say.
It's pretty, I'm appreciative.
But there's so many more of you that could do more. And if you're not doing your part, what's the point?
Don't ask what your podcast can do for you. Ask what you can do for your favorite podcast. That's the words to live by right there.
So no reviews, but if you want your review read next week when we can fully discuss election results across the country, go ahead and leave that on Apple Podcasts, 5-star review. We will read it here on the show. I'll remind, I guess, those patrons that are listening right now that we will be having our election live stream on Tuesday, starting at 8 p.m. Maybe something a little earlier. We'll figure it out, but that announcement will come sometime early in the week.
You better pull up.
And if you want to watch the VOD, which will probably end up being like 5 or 6 hours long, that will stay on YouTube as all of our live stream replays do. Also, I want to remind people, some people are getting a little confused and maybe partially our fault for not being clear, but name shout outs at the end of the episodes. That comes with the $10 tier and up. If we aren't shouting your name out, let us know. Sometimes Patreon doesn't notify us if we have a new subscriber in that tier. So just let us know. We will add you to the tier. $10 tier and up is when you get your shout outs. Anything else before we get into this retrospective?
I don't think so. That's it. I'll be really personally and deeply upset if you don't show up to the live stream.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be big.
It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. Harris is gonna be winning bigly, as we'll dive into right about now.
Be big and long, like Trump says Arnold Palmer Schmidt is.
Real as
I can't believe bro was dropping meat talk last week of the election.
As
You know
hell.
what I'm saying,
Oh my
bro?
god, I can't believe so much has happened the last week of the election. We'll get into it.
Yeah. Just again, a reminder, this is recorded before Election Day. If you want our day-by-day, hour-by-hour updates, join the Discord and follow us on social media.
You gotta follow us on Twitter.
That is where we will be discussing and posting about election results as they come out, especially after the live stream ends. Likely, we don't get full election results for the presidential election, at least on the night of our live stream.
Probably like Thursday.
Yeah, either Wednesday or Thursday, which we won't be live streaming then. So follow us to make sure you're getting updates. and that's that. But before we get into the full retrospective where we're breaking down the trends and all that, we got to do some brief election news because I can't help myself.
We do. I mean, and to be fair, we're likely not going to get the results until probably afternoon on Wednesday. So in a way, you hop on the episode right as it goes out. It's still relevant.
It's still relevant.
It's still relevant.
Of course it is. And the first thing we got to talk about, and this is news that we got last night, is Ann Selzer, who is a legendary pollster who has been correct in her Iowa polls, which is the only state she focuses on, for I don't know how many years, except for I think she might have been wrong on like the 2018 governor's race or something like that. But who fucking cares about the governor's race?
Yeah. Either way, she's got her finger on the pulse of the Iowans.
J. Ann Selzer, also known as Lisan Al-Gaib.
J. Ann Muad'Dib Seltzer.
That's right. She's been right about basically every presidential election in Iowa. And she just dropped a poll, or her polling group did, that had Harris +3 in the state of Iowa.
Insane.
And, maybe that doesn't shock you or maybe that doesn't confront you as something that's important. But I'll just remind you that Iowa has been a consistently red state since Barack Obama won it, and I think 08, maybe 12 as well.
Yeah.
And Trump won the state, I think, in 2020 by 5. And Ann Selzer had Trump winning by, I think, 7, but within margin of error, of course.
It's like a 3.4 margin of error.
The important point here is that, of course, we say polling is from the devil, and it is.
It is, but maybe not from her.
Maybe not from her, although I'm wary.
Yeah, exactly.
Ann Selzer might be devilish. She might be a demon. Who knows?
And maybe everybody's wrong once.
Only time will tell. You know what I mean? But the important bit here is not just that Iowa results are going to sway the election. It could. I don't think so necessarily. The important point to focus on is that these results might indicate more broader nationwide trends that could spell very big trouble for Trump.
Because I mean, it's Iowa.
It's Iowa.
It is a firmly just red state.
Yes.
Like everybody thought, at least going in pre-Ann Selzer poll, that this is just a red state. We don't need to focus on it. It's whatever. It's going to Trump no matter what. It's kind of crazy, and it's kind of indicative of maybe broader trends. Specifically in this poll, she kind of broke it down to show that, here's an excerpt from Yahoo News. The results show independent women and older women with striking support for Harris, as independent women back her by a 28-point margin, and senior women, that's women 65 plus, that's baby boomers, are backing her by a 35-point margin.
That's insane.
What the hell is going on? Boomers, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is like the Dobbs effect, which it very well could be. I don't know if Iowans just really like black presidential candidates.
Got to.
Barack Obama and now Kamala Harris. I don't know what the reasoning is here, but again, the point, Iowa only has 6 electoral votes, right? It's the same as Nevada in that sense. But if there are trends that are impacting Iowan voters to make it Harris +3, then it is reasonable, if these results are correct, which who knows, it is reasonable to infer from there that there are broader nationwide trends that might skew the election further to Harris in other places that we're thinking are toss-ups like Arizona and Nevada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that makes it a lot easier for her to win. Not saying that's going to happen.
Yes.
Right? This episode releases on Wednesday. We could be entirely wrong. Ann Selzer might have had her first L in the history of L's. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But it's a big deal, and it's not something to just ignore because she is very good at what she does.
Especially because, like, this is being driven by independent women and older women too. I don't think it's too much of a logical leap to assume that could be right, to assume that these women are feeling particularly affected by the Dobbs decision and the messaging that's been happening around the decision and getting out to vote for Harris, whereas they otherwise may have set it out or maybe even voted Republican.
Exactly. And that's a trend that wouldn't be contained to Iowa.
Yes.
Which is a big fucking problem for the rest of the country, for Trump.
I'm not a Blexus head. At least in this election, I'm not a Blexus head.
I'm a Blexus denier.
Don't think it's going to happen. I do think that this trend, if it's holding in Iowa, it could hold across the country. That includes Texas, and maybe that helps Ted Cruz lose.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Colin Allred win, because I don't want Colin Allred to win, but I want Ted Cruz to lose.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm firmly a Blexus denier on the presidential level.
Yeah.
I don't think it can happen. I would love to be proven wrong on this point, of course. Yes. I mean, if Harris wins Texas, it's over.
It's over forever.
Yes. So I don't know. Maybe. Another consideration, of course, is that if Harris wins too big, then they're just going to say it's cheating. They're going to say it's cheating anyway, but especially if it's too big, right?
Well, because especially all the Trump rhetoric on Twitter is, we're going to make it too big to rig. We're going to make it too big to rig. Republicans are going to show out massive red wave, massive red wave.
Yeah.
And that's just nowhere is showing that.
So we'll see. Yeah.
And I really hope that Ann Selzer is right, because that just reaffirms us in our idea that polling this election specifically is hellspawn.
Yeah. Well, and there's been a bunch of different pollsters. So polling, obviously, from the devil, as we always say. But the way that 538 and other Real Clear Politics and those kinds of groups construct their aggregates is by weighing different polls based on their reputation, but those pollsters themselves also have different ways of weighing their models or individual poll results within their model before they release them.
Yeah.
And all of that is subjective. None of that is like hard science or decided upon. There's no best model out there. There's no perfect model. And so some people have been making the argument for a while that these pollsters are so terrified of being wrong that they're weighing the pro-Trump responses more than they would the Harris responses.
I don't think
and
that's
possible.
Conspiratorial to say, considering that like 2016 and beyond, everybody hates pollsters. They got it massively wrong in 2016. Hillary was up like bigly.
Yeah.
And they also, and mostly because they underestimated Trump support. And again in 2020, they once again underestimated Trump support.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a leap once again to say that, okay, they're correcting their models to be more pro-Republican to capture that support. And maybe it's more accurate, maybe it's not. Maybe they've overweighed Republican support. Maybe instead of just upping Republican support, they've hampered Harris support, something like that.
It's hard
we
to
have
know.
no way of knowing how they run their models. They don't publish that information.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, especially because pollsters often don't release their models, so there's no way to really know. And like I remember the plus 17 Biden poll in Wisconsin on like October 30th in 2020.
Yeah.
He won the state by like 1 point. So I do not trust pollsters. Ann Selzer is better than most, but still be skeptical, be cautious, and we'll see. If we end up with a blue Iowa, then I'm pretty confident Harris is going to win.
If there's any pollster to trust,
yes,
it would be Ann Selzer and Muad'Dib Selzer.
That's right.
She's to fucking respect on her name.
And all I got to say is if Harris wins Iowa, especially because that would indicate she's probably winning places like Pennsylvania and Georgia, Tony Hinchcliffe's going to die.
They maybe will kill Tony.
Yeah, Tony's not going to see 2025.
Kill Tony when he named his show that was just a prediction.
Which is a perfect lead-in to the Madison Square Garden rally that we missed because it happened like 5 hours after we finished recording last Sunday. But you all know what happened by now. There was a Madison Square Garden rally that was basically a rerun of the 1939 Madison Square Garden rally.
And we called it.
Yeah, and we
called it.
And a lot of other people did too. But the biggest thing that broke through was comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's comedian feels too.
Yeah, I was going to say hardly
charitable
comedian.
Yeah, Tony Hinchcliffe's joke about Puerto Rico was the one that broke through. He called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Wasn't even a good joke.
I was going to say he didn't even like make a joke. It wasn't even like a structured story where he ends up in a punchline as Puerto Rico's an island of garbage. He just gets out there and just cold open just. Yeah, and there's a floating garbage of island that's out there in the sea. They call it Puerto Rico. Brother, shut the fuck up.
Did you see Joe Rogan's response to this?
No, I didn't.
Because Tony Hinchcliffe like came up with Rogan or whatever, or came up because of Rogan.
Yeah, he's in like the Rogan sphere.
And Joe Rogan said that Puerto Rico actually kind of has a trash problem because of various reasons, economic inequality, whatever.
I've seen other conservatives say that as like a defense.
And Rogan said that Tony wasn't being racist; he was actually being environmentally conscious with his joke. Which is the dumbest response I've ever heard.
That's insane.
Because no, he wasn't. No, you don't call Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage and pretend to be.
No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one.
There it is. You don't call Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, and then try to spin it as like, oh, because I care about the environment. You didn't even say anything about the environment.
No, oh my god, and it's just it's so painfully unfunny.
Yeah,
it's like all of the jokes that he was. By the way. The fact that people latched onto the Puerto Rico one and the Puerto Rico one is the one that like went the furthest and got the rally in trouble, crazy to me, because that's not even like the worst thing that was said. I get it, and maybe Democratic strategist okay job in that instance because they latched onto it and they saw that there are 900,000 Puerto Ricans spread across the swing states in this election. They're like, okay, we could use this.
470,000 in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. 470,000 in Pennsylvania, 50,000 in Michigan. I think it's like 170,000 in North Carolina and like 100,000 in Georgia.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a bad move, brother. That is a bad move.
Yeah, and like you said, there were other extreme things that were said at that rally. Tony, the same guy, Tony, made a joke about black people carving watermelons on Halloween.
Which it's like, that's the type of shit that you see in fifth grade.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, that's so funny, before you can read.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson was there. He said Kamala Harris would be the first Samoan Malaysian president and that she has low IQ.
What the fuck is this, 2008?
Yeah, calling Barack Obama a Muslim.
Literally.
Yeah. Rudy Giuliani said Palestinians are trained to fight from 2 years old.
What the fuck are we doing?
And Stephen Miller said America is for Americans and Americans only, which is just a dog whistle, and very similar to a comment made at the 1939 rally when somebody said that we need to restore America to the true Americans. So yeah, Nazi rally.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not any funny jokes. Not anything crazy either. Like I can't.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
It's so weird that it's the Puerto Rico thing that broke through. Undeniably racist, bad joke.
I'm not saying it's bad that it broke through.
Yeah, and maybe it's cynical, but it feels like the only racist things that break through from the Trump campaign are the ones that matter electorally.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But it's like saying that black people are carving watermelon on Halloween feels like it should also break through.
Yes,
and have some electoral consequences in states with a lot of black voters. I don't know.
I've seen like some analysis about it, and they're saying that like the Puerto Rican thing latched on specifically because like I think it's Republicans have been making inroads with Latino voters more so than they have with black voters. So that's the group that they actually stand to lose by making racist jokes. As like sad as it is, Republicans get up there and they make shitty racist black jokes. They're not really losing any more black voters than they would be when they shit on Latinos.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Now, of course, Trump has backed away from these comments. Unfortunately for Trump, though, it was at a Trump rally. And he was standing at a podium that said Trump Vance 2024. So there's no really getting, I mean, he spoke at the same event, right? There's no getting away from it.
Biggest Trump rally as well.
Yeah. Well, it was in front of like 20, 30,000 people in Madison Square Garden. Like, so what are we talking about? You know what I mean? But of course, we didn't get to keep this W very long because Biden came out with his own banger that right-wing media and honestly liberal media kind of ran with. And I think it's a little irresponsible for them to run with it because he very clearly was not trying to say what he said. But I think it's worth listening to the man.
Okay.
For the full context, I got the video here. It's about 30 seconds long. Biden had a response, and it's interesting. He's not even the candidate, but he had a response.
Yeah.
So let's take a listen.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done, everything we've been.
That was the comment.
I can't believe he's the president. That just sounds like something that everybody's grandpa says.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Puerto Rico, where I'm from. But the thing that got a lot of people mad is that he called Trump supporters garbage, and then people like Charlie Kirk took this to mean he's calling half of America garbage, which I think it's uncharitable. Biden was clearly trying to say that he was just trying to flip the line was all he was trying to do, but he doesn't have the sauce to do it.
And it's like they're trying to make this like a deplorables 2016 moment.
Yeah,
but it's not there. Yeah. It's not there. One, because it's Biden and he's not the fucking candidate. Nobody cares about Biden. He's irrelevant. I forget he's the president every goddamn day. You know what I mean? And two, the outrage is just completely manufactured.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Oh, my goodness. You get people, these conservative pundits with I don't even want to call them pundits. These conservatives that are trying to, fucking make it in Demon World with 5,000 followers on X. Half of them are bots getting out there we are not garbage. You don't fucking care.
Yeah, and then Trump did the bit with the he got into a garbage truck or whatever.
He did.
Yeah, I think that's what that was. Maybe I'm spreading misinformation. I don't know. He did a bit afterwards to try to capitalize on it.
What the fuck?
Which I don't really know how you being a garbage man would Wouldn't that just mean your supporters are garbage?
I guess so.
I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I think the outrage is manufactured, but also, why is Biden doing events?
This is true.
Especially
like Zoom events.
Yeah. Don't let him respond to current news.
Get this man to bed.
Get him to bed. Have him go on his walks around the White House. Just get him off the campaign.
Just have him show face.
Yeah.
And that's all he needs to do.
Last week of the campaign, he should not be talking.
Exactly.
At all.
Remember what he did in June to the campaign? We should not let that happen again.
Exactly. Lastly, before we get into our retrospective, just a couple more things here. Elon Musk is very confident that Trump is going to win. So confident, in fact, that he's admitted that Trump's mass deportation policy is going to basically cause an economic catastrophe.
It's crazy because if Trump loses, you need to put that man on suicide watch. He has staked his life on this campaign.
Yeah. And for some reason, Trump has put him out in front of a bunch of cameras. Mistake.
Big mistake, yeah.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't have been allowed to do that. But I say this because there's two instances where Musk basically admitted to this. First, there was a tweet that said, quote, if Trump succeeds in forcing through mass deportations combined with Elon hacking away at the government, firing people and reducing the deficit, there will be an initial severe overreaction in the economy. This economy propped up with debt and artificially suppressed wages. Markets will tumble. But when the storm passes and everyone realizes we are on sounder footing, there will be a rapid recovery to a healthier, sustainable economy. History could be made in the coming 2 years. And then Elon Musk responded with, sounds about right. So here's him just admitting that markets are going to tumble. There's going to be a reaction in the economy that's going to cause a storm.
That sounds like some shit they would have said in Germany.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, guys, as long as we do this thing, as long as we like get rid of this group of people, yeah, we may see an overreaction. Yeah, it may be detrimental to us in the short term. But now that we've got them out of here, we can build everything up on sounder footing. It's fine.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
you just have to suffer temporarily so that we can build it up better.
Yep.
And then that suffering, obviously, for the citizens just continues and continues and continues, and they never actually make it better because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But that just sounds very fash to me.
Yeah, well, it does. It sounds fash to me as well, especially notable because people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, being billionaires, will never suffer economically.
Exactly. It doesn't
Everybody else
matter
will, though.
what happens to the markets
Exactly.
to them.
Yeah. And then also at a phone town hall, Musk said that this commission on government efficiency that he's potentially being put at the head of would, quote, necessarily involve some temporary hardship. So I don't know, it's curious to me. I don't know if he came up with this himself or if he's been invited to meetings where Stephen Miller is like, yeah, there's going to be temporary hardship. I don't know where this came from, but here's him, a surrogate for Trump, a prominent surrogate for Trump this past month, admitting that Trump's economic policies will hurt people in the short term.
That's crazy because, like, I can't even think of, like, a comparable person for, like, the Democrats or whatever, for whatever that Elon Musk is to Trump. But, like, I'll stick with the billionaires. If George Soros came out and said any of this shit,
Yeah.
people would be livid.
Yeah.
People would be furious. Conservatives would not let it go. Like,
Yeah, the closest I could think if we're doing billionaires is like Mark Cuban.
Yeah,
but
that's
Mark
a good-
Cuban
yeah.
just doesn't like Trump.
That's true.
That's all it is.
and he isn't out there, like, jumping up in the air. You know what I'm
Making an
saying?
exit in his body. People fucking hate Elon Musk on TikTok.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, it's crazy. So there's Elon Musk admitting that mass deportations and these insane tariffs will destroy the economy. And, rare moment of honesty, because they will.
Absolutely. And it's also just crazy to me that they can get out there and they can campaign on Trump being better for the economy. And I don't know, 50% of the country somehow believes that Republicans are better at the economy. And yet they can come out here and say that, yeah, like, in order to be good on the economy, we need to tear this shit apart. And
Yes.
you need to suffer for a little bit before we can make it better.
How can you just imagine if Democrats were like, yeah, things are going to suck for a while after I get elected?
We are so good on the economy that we're going to crash it.
It's crazy. This misnomer that conservatives are better on the economy just is insane to me. Last few things, also kind of speaking about conservatives on the economy, Mike Johnson was, I can't even say hot mic'd because this was just I don't know if it was a public event, but it was just Mike Johnson talking to supporters, talking about how they intend to further privatize the healthcare industry and get rid of Obamacare. He's just on mic, on camera saying no more Obamacare. And saying that he wants to put more of healthcare at the whim of the free market, which crazy because we already have a privatized healthcare system, but whatever.
Isn't Obamacare just you have to have healthcare?
Yeah.
Privatized healthcare. You
Yeah,
just
and
have
it's
to
like-
have it, and we'll give you the ability to make it a little bit easier to get and a little more affordable to have. It's the Affordable Care Act, not I'm giving you Care Act.
Right. Yeah. It's different, like transparency rules. There's a marketplace for healthcare, so you can compare rates and stuff like that. And it's helped, millions and millions of people get healthcare in this country. Healthcare is still too expensive.
Way too expensive.
Everyone can attest to this, of course. But Mike Johnson wants to get rid of it all, and he admitted to it on camera. And then also, of course, there was a Trump rally where he was talking about, or Trump was talking about him and Mike Johnson's little secret after Republicans win the House, which I can only infer means overturning election results.
Probably.
What else would that mean?
Yeah.
What else is Mike Johnson good for as speaker other than overturning election results? I don't know what else that could mean,
Yeah. Man, this shit sucks, bro. This shit sucks. I really hope Harris wins, and I really hope somehow we keep the House and Senate.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. Isn't it not looking good for the House?
I don't know. The House has had a Republican skew for a little bit now. I don't know if I know enough about House districts at this point because I'm cynical about Democrats' chances this election cycle, but we've seen Democrats polling ahead, especially like Senate candidates, for example, polling ahead of Harris in their states. Like,
Really? No way Alyssa Slotkin.
Alyssa Slotkin polls ahead of Harris in Michigan. Sherrod Brown polls ahead of Harris in Ohio. He's maintained a lead in Ohio, which is fucking nuts. So, and I think Pennsylvania, same case there. I would imagine it's similar for House candidates, maybe just because people don't know them as well. But also gerrymandering is something to consider.
Yeah.
Texas has earned more House seats after the 2020 census compared to places like California and New York that lost House seats. So it's a big, complicated mess. It's possible for Democrats to win. Only time will tell.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I've only been paying attention to like Senate races and who's going to win those just because, I don't know, it's just been easier to pay attention to. You know what I mean? There's a Colin Allred race. There's Alyssa Slotkin here in Michigan.
Senate looks terrible for Democrats. Yeah, the best we can get, the best we can hope for is a 50-50 split with Osborne caucusing with Democrats from Nebraska. I don't know if that's going to happen, though. You know what I mean? But lastly, before we get into our retrospective, final thing I promise is RFK. RFK was also admitting on camera recently at some interview, I think, that Trump has said he will be put in charge of the Department of Health and Human Safety.
Wow. I don't know about that one.
And he has also said that he will get rid of the fluoride in the water and he will take vaccines off the market. He's just admitting to this stuff. Like on camera, he said this stuff, which is cool.
This shouldn't be serious. We should not be living in a world where this is like a serious thing that can happen. I don't understand. Take vaccines off the market. Oh my God. And like who does that appeal to? That appeals to like a group of like 10,000 moms in some Facebook group that think that vaccines gave their kids autism. And that's it.
Yeah.
Are they even voting?
Rich moms that are already going to vote for Trump or live in like Florida, you know?
Yeah.
Like so it doesn't even matter. And in the vaccine or the fluoride in the water thing, he posted this on Twitter. He said like when I'm in the Trump government or whatever, which feels like a spoil system a little bit, which shouldn't be legal, but whatever. He was basically saying that fluoride in the water causes autism, saying that we've seen autism rate spike as more fluoride has been put in the water, which is just like correlation doesn't equal causation, fallacious reasoning and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's just admitting to this on the campaign trail.
I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of this shit.
It's funny to look at the people that surround Trump, especially when they make those silly little edits where it's like, we're going to save America. And this is a thing, I think it was Felix on Chapo Trap House pointed out, but it's like you've got Tulsi Gabbard, you've got RFK, you've got Elon Musk, you've got Vivek Ramaswamy, all these people surrounding Trump that like 6 years ago were all Democrats and voting for Democrats. It's just, it's funny to see that they're all just like switching to Republicans because they think they'll have a place in government if Trump wins.
I mean, RFK literally, prominent spoiler for Trump, worried about being a spoiler. He said, you know, you drop out, I'll still give you power.
Yeah, he said he's going to run HHS. Like he said he's going to be in charge of the FDA and that kind of shit. And Elon Musk has been promised a fucking Department of Government Efficiency. Like I thought that wasn't legal, but whatever.
And that's crazy too, considering when the Twitter takeover happened and he fired all those critical redundancies. Twitter went to literal shit.
Oh yeah.
Like everything went wrong. Twitter can barely like play videos anymore. They tried to do the Twitter space thing with Ron DeSantis. That shit did not fucking work.
Insane. We interrupt this episode of Head in the Office to remind you to stay warm.
Yeah, remind you that it's getting cold outside and I'm a little chilly.
I wish I had a new hoodie I could wear.
A new comfortable hoodie in a green like money colorway or even a gray colorway.
And, you know, maybe my head is cold. Maybe I need something to make my head warm.
Exactly. Like a beanie.
And on top of all of that, maybe I want to support my favorite podcast, the #1 geopolitical podcast, #1 domestic politics podcast,
#1 election podcast.
Maybe I want to support them and get all the stuff that we've talked about. And you can do that if you head over to headintheoffice.com and get in on our merch.
It's pretty good. And, you know, if you want it to last, it's all embroidered. It's featuring new embroidered design, wonderful colors, and, you know.
Yeah, it's perfect for the winter. It's perfect for you. And it's perfect for a gift as we head into the holidays. So head over to headintheoffice.com, support the show. Now, it's been a long election season.
Yeah. There's too much going on this election season.
We've been covering this election season for like a year and a half at this point. And we are finally at the end of it. We're going to get results this week as who the next president will be.
I hate that so much.
And that's crazy. and that's crazy. But we should take time, regardless of election results, or regardless of if they are out right now when you're listening to this or not, we should take some time to take a look back. I think it's prudent of us to take a look back at this election cycle. Of course, a full summary of the year's events will be made available when we do our Hiddo Award show at the end of the year. But I think we should dedicate this time, since, you know, all the current news is about the election. Dedicate this time to take a look back at what's been happening.
Back and try to understand, maybe recontextualize some feelings about different events that went on during the election.
Yeah.
Type shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll try not to get too doomer, of course, but part of what we'll be talking about is where we go from here. And the answer to that question is, of course, highly dependent on if we win the election, but also mortifying, at least to me. You know what I mean?
100%.
But before we get into that, of course, can't forget the GOP primary. That was a lot of fun covering that.
That was good.
The only thing that came out of that is everybody endorsing Trump except for Chris Christie.
I was going to say, it was really fun covering something that literally did not matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had talked about it a lot, how last year we were like, oh my God, Ron DeSantis was popping off. He was doing the you can't be gay bill. I can't remember what exactly it was called. Don't say gay bill. He was popping off with just anti-LGBTQ legislation, really raising his national profile. Like, he was a scary figure.
Adding bullet points to his resume.
Yeah. And then the moment he got in front of the national stage, fumbled. Absolute charisma
completely
sucked.
crumbled.
He was the worst. Like, I never in a million years would I have expected to genuinely think that Nikki Haley was going to walk away being like the winner of these GOP debates.
Yeah.
With like the best position. Oh my God, man.
Yeah. And it's really funny to me that out of all the people that were running in the GOP primary, not a single one of them got the VP pick.
Yes.
It was JD Vance.
And
JD Vance got the VP pick.
It should have been Nikki Haley.
Oh, yeah.
It genuinely should have been Nikki Haley.
Fantastic play.
They should have forecasted the ability. They should have been able to forecast that this election was going to be about abortion. Because this election is about three things: fucking the economy, immigration, and abortion.
Yeah.
They should have known and at least put a woman on the ticket. Instead, they did the opposite. Not even the opposite, just like, oh, woman, man.
Yeah.
You could have had a woman who was saying she would get in there and she wasn't like pro-choice, but she was like kind of pro-choice, you know what I mean? She's like, yeah, respecting women's decisions and whatnot, which I don't expect much from the GOP, you know what I'm saying?
It was an attempt at a more compassionate answer from the right.
Yes.
Which I think is thinly veiled and still just pro-life policy.
I think it's cynical.
Yeah, but I think it was more of an attempt than really any other GOP member of the Republican Party has made.
And Trump really needs that right now.
Yes.
Instead, he got the opposite in gender and rhetoric. JD Vance out there saying, no, I think women should only be at home.
Oh my God, I know. He needed a woman on the ticket. He chose a woman hater. Like, that's insane.
He needed a woman on the ticket. The first thing this guy does is go viral for calling out women for being crazy cat ladies and weird.
Yeah. The VP picks often do not matter. JD Vance might be the exception.
And that's crazy because this year has been full of exceptions. We had the GOP primary that didn't matter. If you're the Biden accomplishments guy, we had the DNC primary that didn't matter. Quick callback to
My
that
vote
one.
mattered.
My primary vote mattered. You had debates that historically don't mattering. Dramatically altering the course of the election. And then you have the VP pick that's not supposed to matter, really mattering.
Yeah.
In some ways on both sides too, JD Vance being historically unfavorable and Tim Walz actually making a splash when he came on the scene with the Republicans are weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the outcome of the GOP primary, of course, our position from the beginning was that it's not going to matter. Nobody's going to beat Trump. The Republican Party is MAGA, and MAGA is Trump at this point. But Trump really should have gone with Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
And even if VP picks usually don't matter, at the very least, they can be a messenger for you. And Nikki Haley is better just rhetorically than JD Vance. I think she can offer a lot tighter of a message, even though I think she's a demon. And like you said, on abortion, she would have had a much better answer than JD Vance.
She knew what to say when she was up there against Ron DeSantis. Like, she knew how to kind of get around these things and draw contrast.
And like, Kamala Harris right now campaigning with Liz Cheney has, I guess for the last month or two, has been actively courting people that probably would vote for Trump if Nikki Haley was running with him.
Yes.
Like, they are going after the Nikki Haley voters, the small cohort of those that exist.
And she absolutely would have done it. She would have accepted the invitation to be on the ticket.
No
she
doubt.
Like 100%.
Yeah.
Nobody is missing that opportunity.
She endorsed Trump because she wants a job if Trump wins.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And it's crazy because Nikki Haley, having lost the GOP primary, could have gone the other way, endorsed Kamala Harris, and then been the Republican in the cabinet.
Instead of Liz Cheney.
Maybe next to Liz Cheney. Maybe we could have gotten two, but Nikki Haley chose the wrong side of history.
She could have been the fucking mission to the UN.
Yeah.
Like she was before.
She would have,
Yeah.
Ambassador to the UN, yeah. One minor thing that I've kept thinking about this election cycle is that I can't tell if Donald Trump is severely depressed or not. It really seems sometimes like he doesn't want to be doing this, but he feels like he has to for ego reasons, maybe.
I wonder if it's like, I think it's a lot of it is he's old.
He's old.
He's old. Genuinely old. You know, if he wins, oldest person ever elected to the presidency, we cannot have that. You know, I don't fuck with old people in the White House, whatnot. I fuck with old women because they're turning out for Harris right now.
Precisely.
But
In Iowa.
old men in the White House. No. That's wrong. That's against my agenda. You know what I'm saying? But I think part of it is maybe after the assassination attempt, bro had a look back at his life, and he's just like, I don't know, man.
He confronted his own mortality.
He's just sauceless.
Yeah.
He's just been sauceless.
Yeah, he's sort of lost his flavoring a little bit. And yeah, I think a lot of it can be chalked up to old. He's sort of off his rocker. Age does wicked things to the brain and the mind, I suppose. But there's other moments where it seems like he doesn't want it, especially when he was getting hit with charge after charge after charge, like last summer and like early this year or whatever. And when he had to show up for those court dates, of course, throughout the course of the summer and the spring, it seemed like he was not fucking with it, but he just had to.
Maybe they did genuinely just wear him down.
Yeah. And, good on them.
Good on them. I mean, shit, strategy, you know what I mean?
And then before we talk about like Biden dropping out and what this means for the future of the country, I do want to take a moment, just because we've been doing this for a long time.
Yes.
We got to shit on third parties a little bit.
We have to, especially the ones that are green like money.
That's it, not green like us.
Not green like us. They're green like money, but they don't have no money and no votes.
One of the funniest third party moments from this election cycle is the Green Party filling out paperwork in Nevada for Jill Stein to be a ballot referendum.
Just Jill Stein.
Yeah, rather than a presidential candidate on the ballot in Nevada.
Nobody is serious.
That's such an unserious political party.
You can't get out here and like be Jill Stein and talk about how like we're the only party that's like not like pro genocide, which like kind of true.
Yeah.
And we just really need to win, or even if they're not talking about winning, we really need 5% of the vote so we have access to like greater election resources so eventually we can build a coalition that can win. And then fuck up this bad.
Yeah, in Nevada, a major swing state.
Yeah.
like, what are we talking about?
They're not even on the ballot in every state. I mean, not counting Nevada, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't even fucking make it on the ballot everywhere. Yeah. They want 5% of the vote fucking desperately. And in the states that they're making it on the ballot, they can't even make it on right.
Yeah, and them getting 5% would just mean Kamala Harris loses. Right.
Exactly.
Like if they got that major of electoral victories throughout the swing states, it would just mean Kamala Harris loses the election and then Trump wins, which of course is a narrative that they reject. But I just think they pose themselves as this serious third party option for voters that don't like Democrats or Republicans, but then they can't even figure out how to get filed in a major fucking swing state this year. What are we talking about? Like, I can't take you seriously. And they blamed the Secretary of State for giving them the wrong paperwork because there's a difference between petitions for ballot initiatives and petitions to get on the ballot. But if you're not going to do your due diligence and like look at the paperwork they gave you, that's on you, dog. You're a major political party in your narrative.
That's literally reading a contract without signing it.
Yeah.
Signing a contract without reading it. Like, what the fuck are we doing? How do you not see at the top that it says ballot referendum?
Yeah. It's so unserious. Jill Stein won't be on the ballot. If you're a Nevada voter, you won't be able to vote no on Jill Stein, unfortunately.
Damn.
But it is just like, come on, man. We can't take you seriously. And then all the other third parties are like weaker than the Green Party, except the Libertarians. But I don't fuck with Libertarians.
But the Libertarians get like 1%.
Yeah.
They get even less than the Green Party. Oh my God.
Good on them for not nominating a fascist, though. Chase Oliver isn't that bad.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Libertarian Party, genuine alternative to the Republican Party right now. Never would have thought. Never would have thought.
Yeah, Chase Oliver isn't that insane. Of course, I wouldn't vote for him because, first of all, third party, second of all, libertarian. Yep. But at least he's not like a Nazi like most libertarians are nowadays. You know what I mean? But I guess I guess we should talk about Biden.
The big moment.
Talk about Democrats.
The biggest shakeup of the year.
Because it's hard for me, especially now, to imagine Biden being the nominee, or even imagine a time when Biden was the nominee. Yeah. I mean, there certainly was a time, obviously. We talked about it nonstop. We said you still had to vote for Biden, after all.
Famously, we did.
But it's hard to imagine a scenario where we stick with Joe Biden this far. You know what I mean? Like, I cannot fathom us going back to a place where Biden was the nominee and it wasn't Harris. Undeniably the right move to get rid of Biden. When the debate first finished, we were kind of skeptical of the idea because a lot of logistical troubles there. And we at the time, we thought like narrative and electoral troubles, but it ended up working out.
It's just like, it was like unfathomable to do that.
Yeah, it never happened.
Like the primaries just happened.
Way.
The DNC was right around the corner. Like this is something that's never happened before. Nobody could have predicted that this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And even the people who have the power to make it happen were still divided on whether or not it was going to happen. Shout out Nancy Pelosi. Once again, boomer women age 65 plus going crazy for Harris.
Yeah, they're going to save democracy.
They are.
And undeniably, this was caused by the debate and nothing else. And I say that with a bit of sadness, because I wish the anti-genocide protests or the pro-Palestine protests that have been going on for more than a year now could have been the cause of something like this.
Yeah.
And I don't say this to like dunk on them or anything. It was only the debate. It wasn't the uncommitted movement that did this,
that
unfortunately.
was the single biggest thing that shifted public opinion on Biden.
Yeah.
Like whether or not, like we've been talking about the data that shows that Democrats do not support what's going on. Like the majority of Democrats don't fuck with what's happening in Israel.
Yeah.
They like view this thing as wrong and we should step in and do something.
Yeah.
That had been going on up until this point. That didn't shift public opinion so majorly like the debate did.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because in reality, that should have been the thing that shifted public opinion. But
and it's more to call out the incompetence of the DNC for not adopting a better position on Israel, of course. I just, there's some narratives that like the uncommitted movement got Biden to drop out or played a role. And I don't think that's the case because Kamala Harris hasn't adopted a better position on Israel. And if she did, maybe that would be evidence that the protests have been moving her. But unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. That doesn't mean that the protesters are wrong or they're not doing enough or whatever it may be. It's just that Democrats are really bad on this issue.
I mean, I think the analysis that maybe the uncommitted stuff did have like what was playing a role in Biden dropping out and Harris's candidacy was sound for like the first 2 weeks of her campaign when she was doing things that actually capitulated to progressives, when she was picking Tim Walz over Josh Shapiro, when she met with the uncommitted movement in Michigan, like originally when she met with like the big organizers in that group, and then stark fall off.
Yeah.
Stark fall off. Stark October 7th at every mention. Stark, I will defend Israel no matter what.
Yeah. Every time they ask her about Palestinians dying, it's October 7th, so and so and so.
Yeah.
So it's just it's not great, but it is good that Biden's out. Because I think Kamala Harris is better on some issues and is certainly a better candidate, far better than Joe Biden ever could have been. Especially because we just listened to a Joe Biden clip earlier,
and
that was crazy.
Bro, he can't talk.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that he's not on the campaign trail.
That's sort of another thing I've been reflecting on for a few months or so. And Kamala Harris might win this election. I want her to win this election, of course. But there are some far bigger issues that have gone unaddressed by Democrats that scare me for future electoral outcomes. And I'm going to get a little philosophical, and I hope you all forgive me for this.
Oh, yes.
But it's a thing I've been pondering for a while now. There are deep systemic contradictions within liberalism, capitalism, liberal democracy. And when I say liberalism, I'm not talking about like Democrats, but liberalism as a sort of global ideology of, free markets, liberal democracy, as I said, that sort of thing. And the contradictions and issues here are glaringly obvious to everybody at this point, right? And critiques of liberalism are warranted in the present moment because, as we've been saying for a long time, everything feels so dramatically untenable. Like, there is this persistent feeling that I feel is damn near universal at this point that things cannot stay this way.
Like the majority or just under the majority of Americans are living literally paycheck to paycheck.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Can't afford anything. Like nobody can fucking afford a house anymore. Nobody can afford like food anymore.
Yeah, whether it's wealth inequality or the inaffordability of essential goods or, the excesses of empire overseas in Gaza, right? Things feel like they simply cannot stay this way. Yet the only people in politics today that are offering a different path forward from liberal democracy as we know it are those that would make things far, far worse than the present moment. And that's what really scares me here, because the choices are continued liberalism, which everybody views as a failure at this point.
Nobody fucks with the status quo.
Or fascism. Those are the two options, and those options are both fucked.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody advocating for an alternative path forward because people so desperately at this point want an explanation for why they have this deep feeling of economic insecurity and alienation, and everybody so badly wants these obvious contradictions to be resolved. But as I said, the only people offering a different narrative are those on the right. And the right wing in this country is the only side with viable political power to actually make structural changes to the way that we do things. And their critique resonates with people, but it's so deeply flawed and so deeply based on hatred. And that's what really worries me, is that even if Harris wins, which again, I hope she does, the sort of material basis for these contradictions and inequalities will remain, right? The sentiment of anxiety is going to stay the same. The material base that necessitates these calls for alternatives to liberal democracy will remain, which is why we are seriously in need for a political movement that clearly articulates the real material suffering that people are experiencing and calls for resolutions to these contradictions that do not involve the scapegoating of groups like immigrants, trans people, women, and so on. And I don't say this as like a pie-in-the-sky utopian leftist, you know what I mean? I say this as somebody who is mortified of what we will become if that movement doesn't actualize itself.
Yeah.
Because as I said, the contradictions within liberalism are so obvious that people want an alternative. And this question has been sort of seared into my brain for the past few months, especially when it became obvious that Kamala Harris is basically running a conservative campaign. And it's, where do we go from here? Right. And I feel like nobody else sees it this way. And that's not I'm not trying to be pretentious and say that like I can see the future or anything, but I feel like
this guy's Jan Selzer.
Right. I feel like nobody else takes it this seriously. And I worry that the dialectic is sort of playing itself out and things are becoming so untenable that eventually something has to break. But as I said, the only viable options here are liberalism or fascism.
Yeah.
And I worry that liberalism, even if we win this election, will not win out over this overwhelming feeling that something needs to change.
Yeah, nobody fucks with the like current American economic reality.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there are aspects of it that are good. Inflation has like dramatically cooled off compared to what was going on. But it's like, I think there are a lot of issues surrounding why people don't like it. And I think it boils down to, one, things aren't great.
Yeah.
Things could be a lot better with regard to our institutions. But I also think another like side of the coin that we need to pay attention to is this idea that the institutions that are working, the aspects of the economy that are working, what is good, people don't recognize because there's a fundamental like lack of education surrounding just how the economy works. And I'm not talking about like everyone needs to go study economics or whatnot. People need to go to the Chicago school. That's always wrong.
Yeah.
But people need to understand civics.
Yeah.
That's just the thing. People need to understand that the president does not control the economy.
Of course.
The president does not have the inflation button. They don't have the gas button. There's just such a general lack of education that makes it impossible to meaningfully engage with the median voter on almost any issue.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, like the reason that everything sucks so bad is for the most part because of Republicans, right?
Yes.
The fascist element in this country, right? Like declining union membership over time is a result of presidents like Ronald Reagan being actively hostile to unions. But the issue I have with Democrats is that, of course, we don't do enough to resolve these contradictions, and Democrats often place themselves as the defenders of liberal institutions that are viewed as complete failures by most people. Yeah. And that is what really scares me. And when I say things like, dialectic and contradictions, I'm referring to this idea that Marx postulated, that the sort of engine of history is conflicts between classes that are generated based on these material contradictions out in the world, whether it's like massive wealth inequality or the fact that people can't afford healthcare, right? There's these very apparent contradictions in the way that we live. The rich get richer while the poor get poorer, that sort of thing. And Marx thought that these tensions can't just remain. Eventually, a clash will occur, conflict will ensue, and a new status quo will be generated. But importantly, that status quo doesn't need to be something better or even progress forward. It can be something far worse. And my worry is that the two options in this dialectic right now are continued liberalism, which everybody hates, or fascism. And that is just worrying to me, because if we don't resolve these contradictions, or and I guess you can't really resolve them within capitalism itself, if we don't offer a different path forward that goes away from the sort of old democratic way of doing things, big D democratic, the party, then I fear we are in for some really bad results later on, even if Trump goes away. And
it's like, fundamentally, it's an issue with liberal messaging. Like, that's what it is. It's like I said about like there are good things that are going on and there are bad things going on. I think that when it comes to like messaging about politics, there is inherent bias built into the way that like we are currently talking about things that favors conservatives. It is always easier to advocate for change because things kind of suck.
Yeah.
But like there are genuine things that are worth defending from like a liberal perspective. They love talking about these sacred halls and whatnot. That shit is always corny. That shit is always bad. Yeah. But where I kind of want to give credit is the idea that like the maintenance of institutions is entirely mundane. It happens in the background. Things that are good in this country, like the fucking like Fourth Amendment, that is something that is so entirely important to the American experience, to the way that the country is built, to the way that, I don't know, fucking laws and due process works. But it's something that exists in the background. You don't go around and think about the Fourth Amendment throughout your daily life. Yeah. that's because it exists in the background, because the Fourth Amendment is there. You can't be fucking subject to unreasonable search and seizure. Yeah. You're only thinking about it when you're subject to unreasonable search and seizure, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's easy to sort of not be grateful for things when you don't feel like you need to use them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's like democracy may not exist fully, but we're gonna miss it when it's gone.
Yes,
type thing.
And liberals like to hold that sort of like nebulous idea over your head, and they love to focus on like, well, this part is kind of working, instead of just talking about what's not.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about how healthcare kind of fucking sucks in this country. And conservatives have it biased to them in a way where it is always easier to say we need to just tear it down.
Yeah. Well, and conservatives do have a sort of built-in bias towards them because they don't need to tell the truth.
And they don't offer serious solutions.
Yeah, but my issue more so with Democrats and their protection of institutions is the Supreme Court, for example, is an undeniably politically motivated organization, always has been, but now is skewed heavily towards conservatives and is acting in such a way that will basically make it impossible for any democratic reforms to move through in the future. You can't at this point say like, oh, well, it's just Clarence Thomas, it's just Sam Alito, and ignore that it's an institutional problem.
Yeah, it's entirely like how we have built up the court and how we understand the court is wrong, and they don't want to engage with that.
Yeah.
And they don't want to message on that. And whenever they do, it's very half-assed. It's very, maybe I'll pack the court, maybe I won't pack the court. I don't want to say packing the court, even though that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Supreme Court reform, that's hard, guys. That's in the Constitution.
Yeah, it's like they always defer to like the sort of I don't know what would be the word, like the immortality of these institutions, right? The inherent goodness of the institution. It's just bad people that are involved in these institutions, and it's just that's not the case anymore.
There's no room for anybody to come in and say that these institutions have been flawed from their conception. Nobody can come out there and say the founding fathers got it wrong. It's just like not a thing that you can politically do right now in this country. But we need to be talking about these things or start planting the seeds that will allow us in the future to critically examine where the founders got it wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody gets it wrong sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just I'm worried about where we go from here. And as good leftists, of course, it's our job to play a major role in the defeat of fascists because we're the only ones that really understand the material origin. But of course, the issue with the left right now is that one, we're incredibly weak, which in part is because of liberals. Leftist voices, socialist and communist voices have been suppressed throughout U.S. history, purposely suppressed, often by liberals and conservatives working together. But also at the same time today, the left is incredibly divided. We hardly agree with each other on anything. We can't even agree on who to vote for this election cycle. You know what I mean? There is no organized left in this country. So it's hard to know really where we go from here. And I feel like even if Trump loses, even if he dies in a few years and he's made irrelevant, whatever, this material anxiety that people have and this misunderstanding of where it comes from is going to persist. And unless we craft a message that resonates with that alienation, the fascists are going to take advantage of it, and they're going to muster political forces that maybe one day we can't defeat. And that's where, and it's not to say like because liberalism isn't a system that is worse than fascism. You know what I mean? Like there are things worse than liberalism. It's just that liberalism has these glaringly obvious contradictions and issues within it that need to be resolved and addressed. And if they go unaddressed, then somebody with far more nefarious intent will address them and blame them on immigrants or women or trans people or whatever.
Yeah, nobody wants to look beyond it in the right direction.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like a capitalist realism there too, but I'm not even necessarily talking about like the short-term abolition of capitalism.
Right, exactly.
It's just about moving towards the right direction. Nobody in the Democratic Party that's like actually close to or occupying a position of like major power, like high up in the party. I'm not talking about like Rashida Tlaib, AOC. They're not I'm talking about like the Clintons, fucking Schumer, Harris as being the nominee for president. Nobody wants to look beyond what is currently happening. It's just like, maybe we could, means test this thing and make it okay.
Yeah, and it's not just me saying like, oh, Harris should adopt all of my positions because then I would like her. Like that's obviously,
I mean, like real, but
but it's obviously reductive in a way. It's just that she and the Democratic Party broadly, at least at the national level, doesn't speak to these very specific and obvious material anxieties and insecurities that people have. And the people that really only do that are the progressive left, people like Bernie Sanders, or some state-by-state Democrats that do a good job at this, like Tim Walz, for example, with universal free school lunch. But again, that's completely absent from Harris's national platform, which doesn't make any sense to me.
I think the biggest issue is we just need to be honest about the role that corporations play in like the entire process.
Yeah, and
like,
that's, yeah.
When she's talking about housing, I like the build more house idea. I've been saying for years, build more house. That's what it is. But there is no serious discussion happening like at the national level about why we need to build more housing, about why housing is a problem in the first place. Nobody is talking about like issues with zoning laws preventing people from building, I don't know, even fucking apartment complexes to bring down rents and bring down the prices of a home to make it easier to access the market. Nobody is talking about these issues in a serious way. It's just build more houses. And every single thing they propose is just a Band-Aid.
And with housing, she's talking about making housing ownership, house ownership or home ownership easier. And that's just part of the problem, is that everyone's personal wealth that owns a home is tied up in their house.
Yeah.
And if their property values go down, then they lose the wealth that they've accrued.
No,
That's
your
the issue.
generational wealth is tied up in your home. And if your home goes down, you're losing fucking 20% of your wealth there.
Yeah. The only way to like really get at these issues that people are having is arguing for the decommodification of the resources that we need for survival, whether it's housing or healthcare or things of that nature. And to do that require pushing back against the forces within capitalism that want to profit off of these material needs, which Democrats, at least so far, lately have not been willing to do.
Ultimately, that's where you want to land. I don't even fucking want her to even utter that goddamn word like out there. I don't want a Democrat in the next like 20 years to even talk about decommodifying housing. I just want there to be the seeds of discussion about why this happens. We're kind of getting it now when it comes to inflation, but I don't trust that they're going to latch onto it and actually keep talking about like greedflation. Biden started it when he started talking about shrinkflation and how there's less Pringles in a can, Jack. And that's good. That's like the way we need to be going. But they need to do that for every issue. It would be so much easier for them to win and maintain power if they were just honest. Because when they're not honest, or they beat around the bush and don't talk about the issue, they create room for conservatives to enter the conversation and be unserious.
Yeah. Well, and it's why J.D. Vance gets to do economic populism and talk about things like the family unit and, putting fathers back at the head of households and shit like that. It's because there is no unified leftist or left-wing message on economic insecurity. It's just sort of, we're going to do tax credits here, we're going to give loans to small businesses.
Start a business.
Yeah, exactly. And there's inklings of it in the Biden administration. Lena Khan, for example, is fantastic at her job, but she's not a messenger, and she shouldn't be. She's a bureaucrat, but she's doing a good job as a bureaucrat. It's just we need to implement more of the sort of AOC, Bernie Sanders, Lena Khan style attitude towards government and its role in protecting people against the excesses of giant corporations. And it's a problem within liberalism, because liberalism is the ideology of capitalism, right? And conservatism, at least historically in the US, has been a sort of flavor of liberalism that's just a lot more conservative, I guess. It sort of advocates for less engagement for the government in the economy. But of course, as these material insecurities become a lot more apparent, as people's suffering becomes a lot more apparent, there will be a political force that tries to capitalize on it. And the only group trying to do that is the right wing. And all they offer is death and destitution. And according to Elon Musk, temporary hardship.
Which is insane that he can even get out here and say that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, could you imagine if Liz Cheney was saying, Harris has got some big plans for the economy, but it means you are all going to suffer for a couple of years. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that and be serious. We were at such a weird fucking point in this country. Oh my God.
Alternatively, of course, aside from the sort of doomer, I don't think it's doomerism, more just material analysis, but the alternate, of course, is that nothing ever happens.
Yes.
It could be the case that Trump wins. Maybe Trump wins, then maybe J.D. Vance wins after that, God forbid.
Oh, Jesus.
Our one saving grace here, I think, is that this version of fascism is pretty sauceless.
This is true.
They're pretty repulsive to most people. Another good thing is that the American style of federalism is pretty hard for a fascist to take control of, because massive country dispersed over a massive landmass, but also all these sort of centers of economic production are in blue states with blue cities.
Yep.
So that's pretty hard for them to take control of as well. But it doesn't mean that in the short term or in the term where Trump is in office, that immense damage can't be done. They seem pretty hell-bent on deporting as many people that look Mexican as possible. And that will do a lot of damage, even if he can't do, full Hitler-style fascism.
And, the people around him are telling us that that's going to do a lot of damage. I think we should listen to him, and we should turn away.
Yeah. So,
pretty easy.
There's a lot to think about. Where do we go from here? I don't know. But, first things first, let's win the election, I guess.
I really hope so. I really hope so. And it's just like, last night I was sitting down, degrading myself, trying to reflect on like the campaign specifically from the moment that Biden dropped out. Like, what has Harris been doing? And it's just, it's so hard to wrap my head around. One, because the election's not over. It's hard to do retrospective when you don't have the results and you don't necessarily know if these things worked or not. But I mean, I am kind of, huffing the copium. I think there's going to be a Harris-Walz win. I don't think it's going to be a landslide. Maybe I'll reassess after thinking more about the Selzer poll, but I think there's a good shot that they win. Maybe there's a good shot that they're a bit underrepresented in current polling. No pollster wants to make any prediction and risk being wrong again.
Except Ann Selzer.
Except Ann Selzer, because I don't know, she's either a godsend or a devil send,
Yeah, and we don't know yet.
We have no idea if
the
devil fucking spoke to her directly and said, you need to get out there and drop this poll so that Democrats think everything's cool and stop voting. That could have happened. That's entirely within the realm of possibility, all of that to happen. But we just don't know. So it's a little bit hard to think about, but I think there's like issues specifically that we can zero in on and just kind of get some feelings out. You know what I mean? Like it's it's therapy.
Well, catharsis.
And I think that the whole entire campaign just feels like just this mixed bag. And I know that's not necessarily like a satisfying answer.
Yeah.
But I think it's true. I think a good microcosm of like sort of my issues with the campaign are summed up when we're talking about her bipartisan rhetoric. Big thing, big center point, right? And it's hard to talk about because, again, we don't know a lot. You can't really find data, or the data just barely exists at these niche sources that can say necessarily how the median voter feels about this. But from what I can suss out based on things like the general vibes from the CNN town hall and what you kind of see online where people are giving their testimonials about like, well, I like that Harris is willing to work with other people, especially in a post-2016 environment when all we've heard about for the last 8 years is fucking tribalism. That goddamn stupid fucking word. Like everyone's like, oh, political tribalism, everyone is just so polarized. Why can't we just get along?
Yeah.
And in an environment where most normies are talking about that, I think it does work when you say you're at least willing to reach across the aisle a little bit. As much as it pains me to say, the median voter is a horrible amalgam of just opinions that contradict, and it's hard to pin down, but they vote, so we have to contend with that vote, and we have to analyze that vote. You know what I mean? And after the CNN town hall, there was this general sentiment among these median voters that they like the idea that she's working with other people. That's how it is. And I have to at least believe that there's internal polling that they have, which is why they've leaned in so hard on this. That's showing it's a good message that's resonating with people.
But the thing with bipartisanship is like it's always going to poll high because to the average person it just means that you're working together.
Yeah.
I think the better move from Harris would be to say, I'm willing to be bipartisan. I'll work with anybody. I'll have a Republican in my cabinet, but then articulate policies that obviously Republicans would never agree on.
Absolutely.
Like,
just lie.
Yes.
Do what,
I'll work with Republicans to establish a nationalized healthcare system, of course.
Do what Joe Biden did.
Yeah.
Because, generally, fucking spoiler alert, Joe Biden did this in 2020. He did the bipartisan rhetoric. He did the I'm going to reach across the aisle. But then he also did, I want $15 minimum wage and student loan debt forgiveness. That's not things that Republicans were going to vote for, and they didn't vote for it.
Yeah.
But he still got the rhetorical dub.
Yeah, it's just like, and the idea that bipartisanship is always the answer is, I don't remember exactly what logical fallacy this is, but we're presupposing that the true answer or the best response is between the two available options.
Oh, everybody gets out there and said, well, if you're on the extreme of each side, you're just as bad.
Yeah, but obviously what's extreme for Democrats is not the same as what's extreme for Republicans, right? Republicans want mass deportation. Democrats want a little bit less deportation, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the Republican answer is obviously the extreme answer in like every policy option or every policy issue nowadays. And this sort of capitulation to bipartisanship just seeds framing to right wingers, especially on these massive issues like inflation and immigration.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I want to be charitable and take like what the median voter thinks of in consideration when I'm kind of looking back at the specific things she's done when she's talked about this, at least in the short term, right? And while I hate the Dick Cheney endorsement, absolutely hate the Dick Cheney endorsement, I think in the context of this bipartisan rhetoric working, that fuck-ass line about building a coalition from Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift,
Oh, God.
I think it's okay. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if I'm being charitable. You know what I mean? I think clearly she's aiming for this Nikki Haley voter, and this Nikki Haley voter likes the idea of working together and also wants to feel included.
Yeah.
I think this is a bad seed to plant, though. But I think in the short term, it's kind of fine. I also think maybe the Republican in the cabinet thing can work for what she's trying to do. It's not like the biggest deal in the world, but for me personally, we are going right up to the line, if not barely crossing it.
Yeah, and the whole like Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift thing, it worries me because like we've said before, I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to appeal to a Republican voter that doesn't like Trump but doesn't know if they can vote for a Democrat. Or they're trying to give license to this voter to vote for a Democrat. But my worry, and maybe this is more sinister than I give it credit for, my worry is that they're trying to prove that they can basically win without appealing to really any Arab American voter.
Yeah.
In the sense that they are completely ignoring the issue of Gaza and offering nothing to the voters who say this is their number one issue or a major issue in the top 10 or whatever. And I fear that, of course, I want Harris to win, but I fear that a victory there will prove to them that they really don't need to worry that much about the excesses of liberal policy overseas.
I think that that's something they're going to take away no matter what.
Maybe.
I don't think there's a world where they lose this election and they say it's because of Gaza. And they they take a lesson away and say that, okay, if we would have been better on Gaza, we would have gotten more Arab votes in Michigan and we would have won the election. You know what I mean? I don't think that, I think...
Yeah, especially because they deployed Richie Torres to Michigan.
Yeah.
That was fucking
that guy sucks.
insane.
Did you see he sent a official congressional letter to Twitch saying that they should ban Hassan for being an anti-Semite?
Richie Torres?
Yes.
I hate him.
Literally.
He's
so
the
it's
worst.
I don't think there's like a world, like I think I don't want to call it conspiratorial, but like I think a more like a Occam's razor type of analysis is the idea that like the it's easier to go for people who are voting than people who haven't proven that they're going to turn out to vote. And progressives historically have not shown that they will vote. We've been dealing with this for the last year, and these moderate Republicans are people who have voted in the past, have established voter records that they think would be easier to flip. I think there's a little bit of give and take on both sides when we talk about progressive issues. I think progressives need to show out more, and I think that Democrats need to give more and give more license to progressives and appeal to them more to get them to show out more. But I think that's more so kind of where we land when it comes to why they're capitulating to them.
I guess a part of my issue with bipartisanship that we've been talking about for a long time, though, especially when it comes to appealing to voters, is that Democrats have a role to play in the setting of the agenda, right? Like the issues aren't just found out in nature and then announced on like CNN or whatever.
Yeah.
Democrats play a role in the sort of narrative boundaries that are established. And so when they capitulate on an issue like immigration, they have no choice but to be conservative on the immigration issue because they've convinced voters that there's, millions of people flowing in from the southern border that they need to stop.
Yeah.
Or that drug and crimes are coming in and killing your white daughters or whatever.
It's like, I think kind of ultimately like, what the big issue with this campaign is like they're just going back to the old Democratic Party.
Yeah.
That's what's going on, and that's why I bring up the Republican in the cabinet thing, and why I say maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that she's doing, because I was doing some reading about it earlier, and like I said, I've been transparent about how I came up after 2016. That's when I started paying attention to politics and whatnot, and I've learned that this is just a standard practice up until Trump.
Obama did that.
Obama had 4 Republicans in his cabinet.
Yeah.
He's talked about how it was a mistake to have a Republican, I think, in the Secretary of Defense, just because he wanted to assuage worries that Democrats were, I don't know, too fucking liberal about war after Bush's presidency and whatnot. But
famously, LBJ kept that director of the FBI that hated fucking Democrats.
Why? Why?
And his quote, what was his quote? I saw it in a video from one of our mutuals on TikTok recently. It was like, I'd rather have somebody pissing in somebody in the tent pissing out than pissing in or something like that.
I guess.
Which is like, yeah, no, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't fuck with it, but I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. But it was crazy to me to learn that this was standard practice until Trump. Biden stood on business though.
Yeah.
Didn't put a Republican in his cabinet.
And that's real.
Why are we going back?
Yeah, we don't need to.
Why are we going back?
To.
I get it in the short term, but like they're clearly trying to create a rift in the Republican Party, but they seem to be unable to drive this wedge in it. They want to coddle these moderate conservatives and walk a very thin line between saying Trump is crazy and some of Trump's policies are crazy.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it well. Like I just full transparency, I don't think they're doing that well. I don't think they're walking the line. I think they're just being too conservative, right?
And that's the thing that frustrates me is they're not doing this like stupid bipartisanship on every issue.
Yeah.
The Kamala Harris campaign and different liberal PACs have been running ads about abortion, basically saying Trump will kill your wives. There was this ad I saw where it was a couple and it was this guy who was like freaking out because his wife was on the floor. She was like pregnant and she's in pain. And he's like, we need to like get you to get an abortion. Like that's the medically necessary action. And then a Republican politician pops up and swipes his phone and says, no, you can't get an abortion in this state.
Crazy.
Like they are, and that's what you should do on abortion.
Yeah.
You know what? Like that is.
It's literally a life and death issue.
That is it's true and it's good rhetoric and it will get people to turn out to vote because people do think abortion should be legal in the vast majority of states in this country. But they don't do this kind of aggressive rhetoric on other issues, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, they're not being bipartisan on abortion. They are saying Republicans will ban abortions and kill people, and that's accurate.
Yeah.
But they're not doing this with other things, and I don't get it.
It's like the one policy that they're actually willing to take a partisan stance on.
Yeah.
Everything else, they are just like, oh, we'll work with Republicans on the issue. You know, I love listening. She keeps talking about how she loves listening to opposing opinions because, you know, we don't have all the answers. I don't know, dog. I don't think we should listen to every opposing opinion. I don't think every opinion is like that. But I get it electorally. I just think she's going too far. And there's like, to be fair, when it comes to talking about Trump, like Trump has no policies to like actually latch onto a call crazy, except for $1 billion tariff, $1 billion tariff. But they won't even let Tim Walz call Republicans weird anymore.
Yeah.
If we're trying to create this rift in the Republican Party, we're trying to capture the Nikki Haley voter, the mythical moderate Republican. Why are we not driving a wedge in it? Why are we not making the rift bigger? Why are we not making it so that this is a party that they never want to return to because we have made them like so fucking weird? We have attached to them that they are just awful and unserious.
Yeah.
We're trying to capture the quote unquote serious Republican voter.
Yeah.
Why aren't we drawing distinction between them?
Yeah, and the issues that the serious Republican voter is worried about are often those related to like family. You know what I mean? And we see that kind of messaging where she's talking about like $6,000 child tax credit for new families and stuff like that. I really do not and I'm going to harp on this continuously. They've got Tim Walz on the ticket. I don't know why they're not making free school lunch a national issue.
Yeah.
Or you could even frame it in inflation, like groceries are getting expensive. Let us take one meal off the table that you have to pay for. Easy peasy. Like let the government cover that while your kid is in school. Or they could do paid paternity leave. They could pick a number, 6 months. I don't care. 12 months. Whatever.
Biden tried to do paid maternity leave and Build Back Better?
Well, Republicans voted against it.
Exactly.
I think I don't know how many weeks, like 12 weeks. I think it was 12 weeks.
We tried so much of this in 2020, and Republicans voted against it, so the Democrats abandoned it.
Yeah, just like,
I understand abandoning it during Biden's administration because Senate hasn't changed. There's nothing you can do. It didn't pass. It won't pass. But we're in a new election where things can change.
Yeah, you put paid maternity leave front and center. That is a pro-family policy. Say we're going to require every single employer in this country to give at least 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever, of paid maternity leave if you start a new family. That is an incredibly popular and pro-family policy.
Yeah.
It would be a major stress reliever for so many people, but it's not even included. We're talking about crypto. What the fuck is happening?
It's like what I guess I'm trying to get at here with this like whole bipartisan thing and talking about all of this is they're trying so hard to appeal to conservatives in a way where they are unwilling to say that things they support are wrong. They are unwilling to say that this like X policy is wrong. They don't talk about like social issues.
Yeah.
This campaign has not spent like a damn minute on like a national stage actually talking about social issues other than maybe abortion.
They haven't talked about like LGBTQ at all, which I'm very disappointed.
That's
in,
what I mean.
That's
like,
a popular policy.
They're not
for
talking about
Dems, too.
transition. 2 years ago, that was the biggest thing in the midterms.
Yeah.
Was book bans, fucking drag bans, trans bans, and all of
And
that.
Republicans got swept in Selzer style.
Yes, literally.
Like, what are we talking about?
And we've abandoned that message because we are so scared of alienating this moderate Republican. But it's like, sure, you could say that this may be a strategy in the short term. This may be a good strategy that delivers them the election in the short term. But in the long term, these people are not going to stay. We are not building that. We are going about the appealing to conservatives in a wrong way. Rather than do like rhetorical work of making these like democratic policies, positions more palatable to moderate Republicans, we're just being Republicans on a handful of policies. See everything we did with immigration, right? And these are not, because of the way we're appealing to them, these are not voters that are going to continue to vote Democrat when Trump is gone. Yeah. These are very clearly Republicans that don't like how aesthetically abrasive that Trump is. They don't like that Trump is the guy. The Republican Party has become the MAGA party, and they don't like the social consequences that have came with that. Maybe they don't like some of the policies. Maybe they're clairvoyant enough to see that 1 billion tariffs is bad. But honestly, mostly they don't like the aesthetics of the Trump administration.
That's exactly the point, though, is that when Trump, the personality, disappears, then the people that you won in 2024 evaporate.
Yeah.
They'll just go back to being Republicans.
And then you have to do the work again to turn out progressives or try to appeal to them. And if you continue to try to appeal to them, you're just a Republican. That's what it is. Yeah. You are not building a coalition, and the Democrats desperately need a coalition right now. Yeah. That's why Trump wins. That's why Trump has a chance at winning, is because he has this massive coalition of support, this massive group of people that fuck with him. Yeah. Democrats don't have that.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah,
man.
and it's like there were, obviously, as we've said, we've praised the Democrats when they've done good things, like congressionally, legislatively. The infrastructure bill was great, but a lot of that money hasn't even been spent yet. And if Trump wins, it's not going to be spent at all, right? And there's been, Inflation Reduction Act was good. We enjoyed that. But we need to, if you really want to reach out to these Republicans, it's what I was saying, just adopt these policies that directly impact them, and then never shut up about the fact that you did something for people that are struggling to make ends meet and they just had new kids or something like that. That's how you build people that are lifelong Democratic voters. It'll turn their kids into Democratic voters. You don't reach them by lying about the threat at the border, because those people are just going to go back to voting for a Republican when they sound more reasonable, which J.D. Vance does, even though he's a demon.
Especially when the threat at the border has proven absurd.
Yes.
Republicans can lie about it to such an absurd extent that it has no basis in any material reality. No. You should not contend with that ever.
Yeah.
Ever, because it's fundamentally wrong.
Trump has said that 25 million illegal immigrants have come in under Joe Biden.
That's crazy.
It's just not true. Nobody calls him on it, though. Kamala Harris didn't even call him on it. He's just lying about it.
And it's like, for a campaign who has been running on the slogan, quote, "We are not going back," they just seem to be trying to return to this neoliberal form. And again, I'm going to want to talk about immigration here, because I was doing some digging last night. And last week, I alluded to this quote from Hillary Clinton where she was talking about, we need to send them all back. Yeah. And I was like, maybe the Democrats have just always been like this. Again, I came up after 2016. The woke off is what really got me into politics. And, I came out on the right side, right?
Bernie Sanders voter.
So I'm ignorant to the world before then. And it kind of blew my mind when I started diving into this, and I saw that the Democrats have historically treated immigrants and immigration like they are now. I have this excerpt from Bill Clinton. Let me find this. Back in 96, when he passed his immigration bill, that said, it was from, this is from the party platform, actually. Today's Democratic Party also believes we must remain a nation of laws. We cannot tolerate illegal immigration, and we must stop it. For years before Bill Clinton became president, Washington talked tough, but failed to act. In 1992, our borders might as well have not existed. The border was under-patrolled, and what patrols there were under-equipped. Drugs flowed freely, illegal immigration was rampant, criminal immigrants deported after committing crimes in America returned the very next day to commit crimes again. That is identical to the modern day GOP.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
That could be a Trump quote.
It blew my mind to see that. And in the laws that Bill Clinton passed, specifically this law in 96, he increased the number of crimes for which you were deportable.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. insane work right there.
Yeah.
Obama was known as the deporter in chief, and American public opinion about immigration and immigrants didn't break from Republicans until 2005. They were neck and neck and felt the same about the issue. Specifically, around 2005 and 2006, according to the Pew Research Center, Democrats and conservatives felt the same on two questions. 45% of both groups felt like immigrants strengthened our country because of their hard work and talents. That's, a majority of Americans don't think that immigrants are good for the economy. And 45% of both groups also felt like immigrants were a burden to our country because they took jobs and health care. By 2020, we saw the GOP numbers fluctuate just a little bit, but still remained around where they were in 2005. But Democrats overwhelmingly started to show support for immigrants. 86% of them thought that immigrants were good, and only 11% of Democrats thought that immigrants were some sort of drain on these systems. That is a massive shift. And while matters of public opinion began to change in 2005, it wasn't until the early 2010s when we saw Democrats in power begin to approach immigration as this humanitarian issue. And that is absolutely what we saw in 2016, where they really started to nail in this wedge. And I guess you could say maybe immigration became a wedge issue under the Trump presidency when they were doing the kids in cages thing. Even though Obama also did kids in cages, it was focused on how Trump ramped it up, and they were breaking from the party. Why are we going back?
It's nonsense. Yeah.
Why are we going back? I still think Harris is attempting to do at least some aspect of the humanitarian rhetoric because, they're humans. You can't go back that hard on the issue. You know what I mean? Specifically with her answers at the town hall. But she's absolutely just going back to this law and order rhetoric. This isn't the crime wave anymore. That's not what's going on. We have better data. We have better information surrounding immigration. We've already done the work of building up a basis of support around treating immigrants as humans. Why are we going back? Why are we ceding ground? You say we're not going back, but you mean we're not going back to 2016. I liked you better in 2016.
Especially after Donald Trump, when Democrats were forced, or in 2020 when Democrats were forced to draw a contrast with him, which is, I think, the genesis of a lot of the sort of fake progressivism we got from a lot of Democrats in that era, except for people like Bernie Sanders, of course. The only serious progressives. He's been the only serious progressive in many ways for a long time, except for, newcomers like AOC and the squad. But it's rough.
It's like the only thing it feels like we're not going back to rhetorically when it comes to immigration is we're not going back to the idea that they're taking jobs. I think that's one that maybe is so firmly cemented in Americans' minds, at least Democrats' minds, that they can't go back to that. But fuck, I wouldn't be surprised. We have done so much work to lose all of the rhetorical ground we gained that this has become the number 2 issue in the country.
Yeah.
It's in some places number 1.
I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me unless their position without saying it is that they just don't want immigrants in this country. Right? The only way, it doesn't make sense because you could push back against this narrative. You could have been pushing back ever since Trump got elected by saying, okay, sure, we need a border. Countries have a right to enforce the border. Fine. But immigration is good because of X, Y, and Z, better for the economy. They don't commit more crimes than native-born American citizens, whatever. And they could have continued making this argument through the Biden administration. They could have pushed for immigration policies that were better to immigrants while still enforcing the border. But none of that happened. He just enforced Trump policy. And the only immigration bill we got was a massive capitulation to right-wing framing on the issue. It's nonsense because, again, as we've said so many times, when you frame it according to the conservative narrative, people are going to go with the conservative option.
And it's also crazy to me because, part of why they tried to do that border bill, the bipartisan border bill, was so that they could get Trump on playing political games with our security.
And they got him.
And they could message on that issue. But all that has given us is a Democratic Party where 22% of Democrats think we should deport 25 million people. It has actively made the country worse, trying to get that rhetorical trick. And I guarantee you that rhetorical trick has done nothing to sway people.
Because they don't care.
It's women. It's independent old women that are fucking leading the charge for Harris, and it's because of abortion.
In the North.
In the North.
I don't believe that narrative actually matters to anybody, because if they thought that, okay, there was an immigration bill that Trump tanked, why would the logical response be to vote for Harris when, if Trump gets elected, he's promising mass deportation?
And he's promising even more border.
But if you think immigration's this big issue that needs to be addressed legislatively, I would still vote for Trump because Trump offers the stronger answer.
Yeah.
In terms of the conservative framing, I think his answer is wrong according to all available data.
And I believe that Trump and the Republicans are going to deliver on a stronger answer because they've never flip-flopped on their fucking position.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. I think broadly, this sort of flip-flopping we saw from the 2020 woke-off and its consequences to Harris's Republican campaign is because they've learned the wrong lessons from Trump's candidacy. Nobody cares about policy. People do not like Trump because of Trump's policies. They like him because of his rhetoric. The Democrats are in a position now where they can't even do proper rhetoric because they are constantly being questioned about their flip-flopping positions. We saw it with Harris at the town hall. We saw it with Harris at the Brett Baer interview. We saw it Harris in every other one of her interviews, and I think we even saw it in the Texas Senate debate between Colin Allred and Ted Cruz. Colin Allred was questioned on his stance on trans legislation and bathroom bills or whatnot.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to just stand on fucking business.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of it.
The Democrats are forced to flip-flop because the only electorate they're appealing to are conservatives. If you could just stand on, like you said, stand on business with positions you've held, positions that you've arrived at through some logical deductions and, empathy with other human beings, then you wouldn't need to flip-flop this much. Conservatives don't need to flip-flop because they hate you and want you to die.
Literally.
That's an easy position to hold.
100%. And it's just unserious. All their policy positions are unserious. So instead of flip-flopping, they can make them more extreme.
Yeah.
And when they get... And also, there's this idea that, within, the media sphere, there's just this constant bias against conservatives. Because when Harris does an interview with a liberal network like CNN or MSNBC, you at least have somewhat respectable journalists that are willing to do a contentious interview and question her on flip-flopping, on contentious issues, on how American public feels about these things. Whether or not they're doing journalistic malpractice, sometimes I think is debatable. But it's at least contentious. It's not just a fluff piece. When Trump goes on Hannity, Hannity says, yeah, dude, 1 million immigrants literally came over and each one of them killed 3 white women.
Yeah,
and Trump is like, yeah, it's a big problem. It's a really big problem, and I'm going to fix it. And Hannity's like, yeah, you are going to fix it. I believe you're the only person that can fix it.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't get contentious interviews.
And another issue that stands out to me is just a major fumble from Democrats is fracking and climate change. Well, Kamala Harris, objectively a flip-flopper.
Yes.
She will say she's not a she as someone who's voted for her already, early voted, she is a flip-flopper on fracking, among other issues, of course. And Democrats, when they passed the infrastructure bill, had said and touted that it was the largest, or maybe it was Inflation Reduction Act, one of the two major pieces of legislation. They touted that it was the biggest investment in climate change and green technologies in the history of the world. And as far as I know, that's true, and that's good. But they've completely dropped that messaging entirely. And now Kamala Harris is out there saying she will fight for fracking to stay a thing. In fact, at least I think it's our conspiracy that they started telling their influencers to not talk about green energy and the green energy investments that they made because they don't want to do climate change rhetoric on the campaign trail.
And they
anymore.
haven't.
And you don't need to go out there and say we're going to take all the fracking jobs away, we're going to ban it entirely. Put it in the context of we're going to invest in green energy technologies and that's going to help the economy even more.
We are going to transition away from fracking, and you don't even need to do the shitty Elon Musk thing where he says it's going to be hard. You say we will transition away from fracking and we will create new jobs to replace the jobs that are lost, newer, higher paying jobs in a burgeoning industry where we can be a global leader.
Exactly.
My. Put me on a trail.
And that's another area where you can draw extreme contrast because Trump doesn't believe climate change is real.
Yeah.
And if you message on that and point out how he's just lying about it, he's beholden to oil lobbyists and so on, that's a massive piece of contrast you can make. That wins over a lot of young people because when young people are polled, the number one issue often is climate change because it threatens our lives more than anybody else.
Yes. And it's just, it continues to amaze me, and we've been saying it for years, that Democrats do not want to, they want to adopt fucking small business rhetoric and business rhetoric when it comes to everything else other than climate change. Trump constantly talks about bringing American manufacturing back when it comes to cars and other fucking bullshit to bring I don't know, whatever over. He constantly
not a
lies.
thing that's ever going to happen.
He constantly lies about bringing American manufacturing back in those contexts. You can actually bring American manufacturing back if we create industries here that we become leaders in. If you actually start to develop green technologies here and then sell it to the rest of the world.
And
I can't handle it.
And that could even come through like government subsidy to private corporations. I don't want it to happen that way.
Stop subsidizing Tesla and subsidize somewhere else. Honestly, politically punish Elon Musk.
Yeah, no, it's to put him in jail.
Yeah.
Honestly. But like, yeah, you can even do it through the sort of just typical liberal subsidy to green energy companies.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it through fucking carbon tax credits or whatever. That shit is a scam.
Awful. Yeah.
But do it through, companies that are actually investing in these technologies and paying people well.
It's fucking insane that companies can sell their carbon credits.
Yeah.
Why
It's a scam.
is that ever a thing? Oh
It's
my
a scam.
God,
Yeah,
man.
it's crazy.
And it's just, this continues on this point that liberals are just ineffectual at doing anything, at creating any change, at talking about any way forward other than what we have right now. It's ridiculous. And even just going back to the flip-flopping, even when she's questioned about being a flip-flopper, she can't even come up with something that sounds good. She can't even say, I listen to Americans and that's why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, J.D. Vance called Trump Hitler.
You literally.
If he can get away with flip-flopping on Trump being literally Hitler, she can say like, "Oh, I changed my mind after talking to voters in whatever state." Like it's not hard. It's so uncompelling, and I don't know why she sucks at that.
And again, it's like they only want to learn the wrong lessons from Republicans right now, and they don't want to look at their own goddamn party. Yeah. Joe Biden did all of this in 2020. Like, Gaza aside, foreign policy aside, Joe Biden did run a progressive presidency.
Yeah.
And we don't...
The bar is low.
The bar is incredibly low.
Yes.
But we do not talk enough about how it's Republicans' fault that these things weren't delivered on. Mm-hmm. And because nobody wants to use the bully pulpit to bully Republicans, the American people don't understand why some things have been ineffectual.
Yeah.
Like, it's an education issue.
And money is not the problem here. Like, if her worry is that she'll lose some of the corporate backers she needs to win the election, it's just not the case. She set fundraising records before she even made her first speech as the presumptive nominee after Biden dropped out. Money is not the problem here. It's a more symptomatic or internal issue to the Democratic Party as a whole. Mm-hmm. And it's bad. It doesn't bode well.
And it's like, I don't know why Democrats try to I don't know, participate in people's misconceptions of how government works whenever they run for the presidency. Every single candidate always gets on there and talks about like, oh, you elect me in my 4 years, I'm making everything better. Mm-hmm. I'm literally going to fix everything. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the one person that does it. I'm the one person that has all the power.
Yeah.
They constantly play into it, and it shoots them in the foot.
Yeah.
It just continually fucking shoots them in the foot. I don't get it. Because then you say you're going to fix everything. Obviously, nothing gets fixed because either there are issues in the Senate, there are issues in the House, or your platform was just bad.
Or the effects aren't felt until years after.
Exactly. Yeah. And people continue to distrust the government. Instead, we need to have people that are willing to be open and honest about how legislation works. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When Anderson Cooper asks you, what are you going to do if you literally can't do the things you plan to do? You need to be willing to say, well, if I can't execute on codifying Roe v. Wade, then I'll use the bully pulpit to let the American people know exactly who is unwilling to codify Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And that's how you actually build a majority in the Senate. That's how you build a coalition.
You can do that. You can blame Republicans without blaming the Republican electorate if you so badly want to win them over, right? You can say that, pick a conservative state, Texas or whatever. You can say that your senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, is unwilling to vote for this abortion legislation, protection of Roe v. Wade, whatever, even though, 65% of Texans are in favor of legal abortion.
That's what I was going to say. Especially with the abortion issue, you can say your representatives are not representing you. You support these things, yet the people who claim to represent you are doing the opposite. Mm-hmm. Let's get them out of there.
Yeah.
And then maybe when you do your sting operations to fund other Republicans in primaries, it could actually work out for you. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, man. I don't know. It sucks. There's just this massive lack of education when it comes to how everyday people engage with politics. And then when they do engage with politics once every 4 years, Democrats are dumb.
Yeah, dumb and bad.
Dumb and bad. Oh my goodness, man.
That's a retrospective for you.
Yeah, it is. That's campaign sucks.
Yeah, campaign sucks. Not looking great. Honestly, not happy with it.
I'm still praying that Harris is a dark horse for progressivism.
Yeah,
but you know it could happen.
It could.
Could happen. There's a non-zero chance that something like that could happen. But
I hope you're all out there for us. I hope when we do our live stream, you're there.
Please.
And you're participate. Maybe we'll do a little prediction. Maybe little prediction. I don't know if I'm willing to put my neck out there yet, but we'll see.
Bliowa
hopping
on that map and just Bliowa.
One other thing I'll say before we get out of here is I would be prepared for Trump to just declare victory. It's what he did in 2020. It's what he'll do again. As we know, results are often more red than they'll end up being when they're first being counted because it's easier to count more rural red counties than it is massive cities, like Philadelphia and stuff like that. So be wary of that. Trump's going to probably declare victory. By the time you listen to this, if you're a Wednesday weenie or you listen later, Trump probably would have already declared victory.
He's probably declaring victory at like 11 o'clock. Stop the count. Stop the count.
Stop the count. Yeah, we'll get some of that. So be ready for that. And we appreciate you sticking with us for this entire election season. For those of you that have been here the whole time. It's crazy.
I think I would shed tears if on election night, Brian Kilmeade comes out there and he's like, word from the control room, word from the statistician's office. It's 9 o'clock. Iowa's just been called. Iowa's just been called for Harris.
Then they call the guy out to prove it.
Exactly. He's like, look, statistically, it's impossible.
Look, we've got this percent in Des Moines for Harris. If we look at Cedar Rapids, there's no way we get more Republican votes.
Based on all of the turnout, based on the way the electorate has shown up, based on how many votes are still let to be in, it is statistically impossible that Trump wins Iowa.
Yeah, I'm praying for Steve Kornacki, the guy who does it on NBC. I hope he gets some good sleep Monday night because he's going to be up for a while.
I'm really praying that Kramer comes out and he says, guys, I think Trump's going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're stressed about the election, go take a walk.
Take a walk.
Especially
write
on
a 5-star
Tuesday.
review.
Yeah, if you write a 5-star review while you're taking a walk. But if you're listening on Patreon and, maybe it's Tuesday right now, midday, results aren't going to be out until like 9, 10 o'clock for a lot of states, even longer for other states. Go take a walk.
Florida will be out at 8:30, but
you can't tell anything about reported early vote numbers or exit polls that early in the day. So go relax, drink a tea or something.
That's crazy. I got to go to work all day on Tuesday. Just sit there like, I wonder what's going to happen. Wonder what's going to happen. Maybe I'll do an exit poll.
Yeah, maybe you all should just like schedule Wednesday to not go into work.
Yeah.
Ask for a day off because if it's bad results, you're not going to want to go to work, especially if you work with Republicans. They're going to be insufferable. And if it's good results, you can celebrate.
If it's good results, you may not want to go to work either if you work with a Republican because they're going to be insufferable.
They might threaten you. Yeah, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? So take care of yourself this week. Maybe keep some like Tums nearby or something like that.
Hopefully you have no family functions scheduled.
Yeah, that would be bad. Yeah, just wait till Thanksgiving rolls around and everyone goes home and has to talk about this election. Anyways, we thank you all for listening to this episode, and of course, we got to give a special thanks.
Special thanks to our donors, the people who make this network run.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Keep the lights on here 24/7. We got to start with Caden Kraut, Lord Tyler Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Taro, Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vasquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Big Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsford, Yuck, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfishing, Ben Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's Boyfriend, Ted Cruz's Boy Toy, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarlson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, Elian, Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Emma the Doot Slayer, Veronica, aka V, Raxon, Ash Smith the Grotler, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, and Hope of Giants, aka Ghana Aquana Don,
Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cami, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy, Tay Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Caleb Lowe, Anna Valinick, KCC, Say Yes to Wes, August, Particular Pikmin, Sir Capalot, Jeff Signs, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ander, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kishan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Lalo Valesco, Particulon, Memfrez, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Lauren, Uncrassomatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Kevin Kasaya, Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Do Fairy, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, Azim Fida Hussein, Brooklyn G, Noverk the Dastardly, Goldthorn, Addie Book, Merlin, John from Houston, Moss, Anaya, INC, Headass McDeadass, That Art Dork, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon. We couldn't do it without you.
Yes. Have a great week, particularly this week. Please lock in.
Yeah, lock in, and then once we get results, take care of yourself, no matter what that result is. And we love you.
Yeah, we do.